Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Felicia DePaula, Program Specialist with the New Mexico Economic Development Department. You've tuned into our Rural Efficient Business Program interview series. New Mexico State University and the New Mexico Manufacturing Extension Program are partners of this monthly series that strives to connect and assist not only rural but urban businesses and agricultural producers in New Mexico to resources that reduce energy consumption, increase profits, and explore ways to implement renewable energy systems. And this is John.
Yes, and if you've been tuning in for the past year, you might know me by now. I'm John Winscott. I'm the Economic and Energy Diversification Coordinator at the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department, and I'm on the recovery team with Felicia and helping out the best I can.
Awesome. So today we have a full house. We're in Rio Rancho, New Mexico at Brew Lab 101. We're also lucky enough to be joined by Jalal Rastegari from New Mexico State University, research scientist, as well as Scott and Beth Salvas, and they're the founders of Brew Lab 101 in Rio Rancho. So I will let Jalal go ahead and jump in and give a brief about what he's going to be doing today.
Sure. Thank you, Felicia, for the introduction. As you mentioned, I'm from New Mexico State University. We have been doing this pollution prevention, energy efficiency assessment for the last 22 years. So it's been a while. We have been fortunate to receive the funding from EPA, and we are hoping to receive our new funding within a couple of weeks, hopefully. And we can continue to work with the businesses in New Mexico and provide the services on energy, water, waste, and you know, being more environmental friendly for the whole New Mexican businesses. So basically, what we are doing is going to businesses and we do assessment of the energy, water, waste generation, and also how they can save money. There are, you know, many ways that they can save money on energy, but environment is really important. So we are focusing a lot on environment, and we are doing walking through the facilities and looking at the areas that they are using the most energy, and they are if they are wasting water, what is their process, how they can improve their process. There are different partnerships that we developed throughout the years. We have good relation with New Mexico Economic Development, and they are doing a great job connecting us to the businesses. We are working with PNM for the incentives that they have on lighting and other services that they can provide to the uh, businesses. We are also working with USDA, and they have good resources for providing loans and grants to do some of the work that we are recommending. So basically, when we go to the businesses for the assessment, we walk through the process and look at everything. And we usually bring students with us. They are the brightest that we have in NMSU, usually from mechanical engineering, and they are really doing a good job. They are involved in all process of collecting data, putting the data together, do the calculation, helping with the reports. So those are the kind of works that students are involved and they are doing this kind of work. So after we collect all the data and we do the calculation, we come up with a report. It's very comprehensive, covers everything. We put a lot of efforts on those reports and come up with recommendations. What needs to be done and what are the best options for uh, reducing the energy bill, the water bill, how we can help the environment. So those are the sort of things that we make recommendations. After that, we follow up with the businesses and see if they are have implemented the recommendation. If not, what are some of the obstacles and how we can help to help them to implement those recommendations. So basically, there are three types of recommendations that we make. One is no cost, that actually there is no cost for the business to implement those. A lot of businesses, they can simply adjust their thermostat and save huge amount of money by uh, adjusting their thermostat. There are some investment like, if they want to do LEDs, and most of them they already have, so they can do it by themselves. And as I mentioned, there are resources available that other businesses, they can, other service provider, they can provide those services, replacing the LEDs, fluorescents with LEDs. Or if there are some investment required, there are also resources available, like USDA can provide those resources. If they need to replace some of the uh, equipment, there are also resources available. So those are the sort of things that we can help with the businesses, and New Mexico Economic Development Department. They are fantastic, and they have done a great job in providing some of those resources to the businesses.
Awesome. So how long will the whole process take, Jalal?
Well, before pandemics, we used to do it in 2-3 days, but now we do it in 2-3 hours.
Speedy, speedy.
Yeah.
You've pivoted, huh? Just like all of us.
So
Okay.
we do a lot of background work at the office, so
Okay.
that makes it a lot easier.
Perfect. Okay, well, I know you probably have to jump in there. Thank you so much for giving us a little breakdown. And we'll jump into the interview and join you back there in probably 30 minutes to see some of the work you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Sir.
Thanks, Jalal.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let me give you a little breakdown of and history of Brew Lab. So, grown from a love of home brewing, Brew Lab 101 is quickly becoming one of the top breweries in Rio Rancho. Brew Lab 101 highlights the importance of science and innovation needed to get the perfect brew. Today's engineers will be conducting an energy assessment that will provide recommendations to Beth and Scott that will potentially save them money by cutting some energy costs. So Beth is live with us, and Scott is joining us from his office. So let's just jump into it. What's the history of Brew Lab 101? How did you come up with the concept, and why Rio Rancho? Just some of those logistics.
Yeah, so Brew Lab 101 kind of grew out of really just a hobby, just a home brewing hobby. Brew Lab's been open now about 3 years, but I was brewing at home for about 8 years before that. Never started brewing with any intention to create a brewery. It was really just make some beer, have some parties, have some friends come over, and I think just through the years, more and more of my friends were starting to say, "Wow, your beer's really getting pretty good," and it kept evolving every year. And then they were the kind of the ones who put the idea in my head, like, "Hey, maybe you should really think about doing something like this." And and of course, you always have fantasies of doing things like breweries, but having a little encouragement from your friends, and even having some folks say, "Hey, if you want to do this, I'll help, provide some capital and be a partner and all that." And so that sort of kind of spurred my thinking to really start running the engineering spreadsheets and the numbers, and come up with a business plan and try to determine is this something that would really be feasible and viable. And fast forward, I was able to kind of prove to myself that I think it could work. I talked to other breweries to kind of get insight into things that I didn't know anything about because I never worked for a commercial brewery before. And in time was able to find partners who were willing to help provide capital to make it happen, and really sort of create like a village of people who would help get this big project done. And we got open, it was about 3 years ago, and started off really strong. And obviously we're growing like a normal business. Pandemic happens. Oh no, obviously it kind of curtails things a little bit. Made us really sort of refocus on the business and get lean, and try to just push through just kind of a new sort of environment that you never could really plan for as a business. And now 3 years in, we're growing and we're strong, and I think we're thriving, and just looking at what are the next steps as we expand. And I think energy efficiency is also a part of that equation.
Awesome. So what led you to this, wanting to work with New Mexico State and maybe make some changes to the brewery and the business?
Lorraine Ruggles from the Economic Development group approached me just a few weeks ago about this opportunity, and I said, of course we'd be interested. So she connected me with Jalal, and then it's just been a whirlwind, but we're so excited.
Sure. And I just wanted to comment, y'all came online probably at the most unique time in history with the pandemic and everything, and kind of being here, and we got a tour before we did this interview today, and it's incredible what you've been able to do and how you keep making changes to progress and diversify your business and kind of keep up with things while it seems like the world came to a stop. It's pretty incredible. Like you just created an outdoor space in the back that you're trying to get sort of permitted for, and that's really exciting, and just the expansion of your business. And it's just I'm really impressed at how you aren't just completely exhausted all the time.
Well, I'm not going to say we're not exhausted all the time.
Oh, sure.
You know, we definitely have a firm believer of turning lemons into lemonade, and I think the pandemic, as challenging as it was, offered a lot of unique opportunities and sort of pushed us to actually grow in ways that we weren't probably planning to do for a while. And like you said, our backyard beer garden is about ready to open. We have one more inspection, so hopefully that will be open tomorrow. And starting to do a minor amounts of canning. These are all things that sort of came out of the pandemic, and things that we knew would be part of our plan, but probably potentially still years off.
Mhm.
And if there's one thing that people did during the pandemic, it was drink beer. So that was
That helps.
that was
Good
the
times and bad.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
Stressful but perfect. So getting into a little bit more of the energy side of things, have you guys been able to make any changes at this point to the brewery yet to become a little bit more energy efficient?
Yeah, I mean, I think, some of the things that we kind of did more in the beginning, sort of initial build, we redid all the lighting, we converted everything to LED lighting, even the bulbs in the back behind you in the brewery, those have been converted now to LED lighting. Those are the small things, but the things I think that still matter, and they're very affordable and can be done, very, very quickly. We replaced all the ductwork just for more efficient heating and cooling in the tap room. Those are things that were done as part of the build. One of the big things that we did recently was get rid of our hot liquor tank, which hot liquor tank is just a fancy way to say big pot of boiling water or very hot water for the mash. And we went on with an on-demand water heating system. And that's really been a game changer in terms of saving not only the time it takes to brew, but because you're not waiting for this big pot to heat up, but you're using much less water too, because you don't have water waste. Because if you heat up a hot liquor tank, you may only use a portion of that water, and the rest of it ends up maybe going to cleaning some that goes down the drain. And therefore, you're not losing all that heat too to the environment when you're just using normal, heating sort of element on a hot liquor tank.
Sure. And how do you keep up with like the latest trends in brewing and what might make Brew Lab 101 more energy efficient? Is there like a community that you go to, or like some resources that you constantly refer to, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we're part of the Brewers Guild, as most of the breweries in this state are, and they're really good at funneling information. We just had a conference, and really the conference was sustainability. Sustainability means a lot of different things, including energy. The other part too, being part of the Brewers Association, which is the national association, they're always funneling newsletters, information to us, and then just talking with your fellow brewers, what's working, what's not working, what are new ideas, what are affordable ideas. Obviously, we're a pretty small brewery, and so things have to make sense for someone like us. We're maybe a much larger brewery. Other things like CO2 capture and things like that are going to make a lot more sense for them, or maybe it might be ways off for someone at our size.
Mm-hmm. And does the market drive a lot of, I guess, your menu or the equipment that you have? I know cider is becoming more of a hot ticket item for you guys. Is that sort of something that you've kind of noticed around the state at these conferences, or is it just kind of unique to the community that you guys are in? Or, yeah, how does that work?
Well, cider was definitely something we saw up and coming. We saw a few breweries doing it. The main reason is you actually need a winemaking license, or what's called a wine brewer's license, to make cider, because it's fermented fruit juice. Just so when you ferment grape juice, it becomes wine. When you ferment apple juice, it becomes cider. So we saw that there's a market for it, but not a lot of folks were doing it. At the same time, my wife Beth loves cider, and I tried for years to make beer she would like, and she just didn't know. So really, the cider is all about her, and but it was also good for business. And so yeah, cider's been great. It's about 25-30% of our sales. And the nice thing about cider from an energy standpoint is you're not really doing any of the hot side, right? When you're brewing beer, you're doing, like we talked about, the hot liquor tank, the mash tun, the boil kettle. There's very little of that in the cider making process. You're going almost straight to fermentation. So it is a less energy intensive product to produce. So,
Beth, can you
and
tell
people
us?
seem to really like it, right? So obviously you follow what people like. If people didn't like cider, then we probably make less. But anything
Sure,
is important these days. So.
Yeah, well, cider is
Gotcha.
the hot ticket now with the gluten allergies and the
Mhm.
everything allergies. So, Beth, when you were giving us a tour, you told us a little bit about what's utilizing a lot of energy. Can you share that? Because I'm sure other breweries are also struggling with a similar issue.
Yeah, so the two things that causes probably are the heating and cooling. So it's we've helped with the heating by getting the hot water on demand tank. So we have a big walk-in cooler to keep all of our kegs cold, and then we have a glycol chiller, and that's what keeps the fermentation temperature at the right temperature for depending on what it is that we're fermenting. So the brewers can talk more about that, but that generates an awful lot of heat. So yeah, those are the two energy users.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. We were talking about that because when we were at High Country Meats in Raton, they shared with us that that was a similar issue, keeping the butcher freezers cool.
Mhm.
And they had a great setup that was paid for through REAP funding through USDA. So that's definitely an option that we'll share after the assessment, because I like to say the assessment is the cheat sheet to the REAP grant application. It makes it just simple, easy. All the answers are there, and boom, you work with Carlos at USDA and get some funding. So just to keep a bug in my ear so that I remember to help you guys apply for that, and we'll get you set up.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess I wanted to ask, you've kind of already touched on it with the heating and cooling system, but did you have any other big goals coming into this energy assessment that Jalal's doing? Anything that you think might be highlighted in his report or that you're curious about?
Well, I mean, one thing to kind of just play off what Beth just said, one of the things that we sort of have been able to figure out on our own, just from, obviously looking at our own electricity bills and just from the nature of the system, is, we, like a lot of companies, when you're first starting, you're trying to find ways to save money. And so one of those was we got an indoor glycol chiller system, which are popular, but, we are not a really large space. And so we found is that you need a lot more space and ventilation to be able to properly blow off all the heat that's generated. Like that said, the glycol chiller's job, it's like we're almost like a air conditioner except for glycol, right? And glycol is running through those fermenters that are behind you to control temperature, which means all that heat's being blown off. In our case, it's being blown off inside, and so therefore now you have your regular air conditioning system is trying to overcome that. And we found better ways to ventilate it. But we know we're going to need to move to a more traditional, larger outdoor glycol type system, which you sort of have almost like an air conditioner for your home. And so that's going to be a large expense item for us, but also it's going to save tremendous amounts of energy in terms of that system not overworking because it's too warm, just because it's having to recirculate its own heat, and then us having to sort of continue to condition the inside environment to still keep it a reasonable temperature for working. So that's going to be a big one for us to work through, I think, but important. It's something that needs to happen in the next year. And also, we know that we're growing in terms of production needs, and so it's time for a larger unit anyway.
Sure. And could you go into detail about sort of how you selected the space that you're in now? And I know that you're expanding it.
Yeah.
Or have taken out or taken over 2 other units. And so just wanted to see if you could give our audience an overview of that journey.
Sure. I mean, siting a brewery is a really, really challenging thing, especially if you're trying to site a brewery in more of a commercial neighborhood sort of district like we wanted to be. We really want to kind of be the neighborhood brewery. So I didn't want to be initially like in a big industrial space. So when you start looking at commercial property, especially property that was going to be somewhat close to where we live, because business is always drawing you there all the time. We started looking northwest Albuquerque. We were looking at Rio Rancho. It's a community that we know. And once you start looking at all the code requirements and whether or not you're allowed to have alcohol and not being too close to churches and schools and having the proper, like I said, zoning for manufacturing as well as alcohol, and then having the space, you need both taproom space, you need a lot of manufacturing space, room to grow, and then it needs to be acceptable to the neighborhood, because if they don't want it, then it won't happen. You still have to get these things approved through city councils. And then it has to be affordable, right? I mean, like anything. So when you start factoring all that stuff in, we didn't really have a lot of different locations. And so, there are 2 different locations. The first one didn't really work out, but in some ways that might be good because it was going to be a small location. I don't think it would have been available for the kind of growth that this one is. So that's how we sort of ended up in this particular space. And then just knowing that there were some vacancies next door to us was good to know, like, okay, if we need to grow, hopefully that vacancy will be open. And that's sort of what happened with the back patio space that you saw. That was great having that space because it allowed us to have lots of seating during the pandemic when people could only seated outside, but also the third suite now that we have, which is adjacent to the brewery, that's allowing us future expansion space and storage space. So that will keep us happy for several years to come, I think, in terms of space before we might need to look at an even larger, offsite location.
Has there been any discussion of implementing any type of solar? I mean, I'm sure you guys don't own the building as you just suggested, but is that ever a discussion with the owner or an
It hasn't been a discussion to date. It's something I can certainly broach with them at some point and see if they're interested in something like that. If they did it, I'm sure they want to do it for the whole building at large, which might help some of us. Each tenant has their own meter, though, at the same time. So there may be an option for that where it could just be something on our own if they're willing to allow us to attach it to a building. So obviously in a lease situation, some of those things can be a little bit more tricky to work out. And these are things that are even sort of just us starting to think about, right, in terms of energy sustainability. Probably like most small breweries, a lot of us probably didn't spend a lot of time thinking a lot about trying to be super energy efficient. A lot of us spend a lot of our time figuring out, okay, can I afford just to build something and actually get it open and get it permitted, right? And a lot of those things sort of take over. And I think now that we're kind of thriving, being able to focus more on energy efficiency, and then you see your bills and you're like, wow, I really like to reduce that bill, but also be more sustainable at the same time. I think now we're just starting to get into that. And so you guys calling us, obviously was sort of great timing, as you were saying before, because we're sort of now in a mode 3 years in where we kind of know ourselves, we know where we're going, we kind of know what our goals are, and being able to work with folks who have more expertise than us in these matters is fantastic, because at Brew Lab, we're all about technology, we're all about education, and so it all fits together well.
Well, on the lighting note, you had mentioned that you guys redid this lighting back here. I think everyone can probably see. Have you noticed a change on your utility bills yet from making this adjustment?
That would be hard. I'd have to really get pretty granular, and maybe that's something you guys can help us with as part of the assessment. The HVAC and the glycol chiller are such a large part of the electricity side. I think it's hard to see probably smaller amounts of savings like the LED. I mean, we know it's there, but I can't throw a number out to you and tell you it's saving $5 a month, or $10 a month, or $50 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And I'm just curious. I know breweries are becoming more and more popular. Both you and Beth have such a unique experience or background coming into this, being scientists and having all this technical know-how. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in starting a brewery? What was a great lesson that you learned that you didn't expect kind of coming into all of this?
You want me to start on this one, Beth, or do you want to take some of this and I'll jump in? Or?
I would think you can take it, I'll start it. I was just saying that the people that you meet is, I think, the best experience as part of it. I knew it would be something way out of my wheelhouse, being a scientist, usually at my computer, but I just enjoy meeting all kinds of people and being able to give back by doing charity events. So that's probably the biggest thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I would sort of second what Beth says. A lot of what we do is people, right? It's a people business, it's a social business. Community is huge for us. We do a lot of fundraisers. We really try to be good stewards and good neighbors. In terms of other lessons learned, this is probably true of any business. Everything takes longer than you think it's going to take. Everything costs a little bit more. So put your contingencies on there. Obviously try to do as much as you can on your own, especially in this environment right now. Most contractors are very busy. Costs are more. So if you can do things on your own, if you can have people, I feel fortunate that I have a great group of people. We have a great team that collectively we can get a lot of things done. We know a lot of folks who can help us. In terms of sustainability, I think, again, like I said, the indoor glycol chiller probably wasn't the best choice for a small place like ours, or maybe a large warehouse that we worked out. So really probably trying to get a little bit deeper understanding of equipment when you maybe don't know as much as you could know, and ask those questions. There's always going to be lessons learned, but permitting is huge, right? Zoning and permitting and all that, and understanding the environment that you're getting into. We've certainly had our challenges. Getting things built and not always understanding every aspect of what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. Those are always good things to know, or have folks on your team who know how to navigate that sort of stuff.
Well, I think we're nearing the end. We wanted to have a little chat with the brewer in the back, so we're going to do a tour here in just a minute. I would love to follow up with you guys in a few months, see what the assessment shares, see what the next steps are, and maybe we can just kind of stick by you through this whole process to give other businesses an idea of what it looks like from step 1 to step 5. If you're open to that, we'll keep in touch and do that. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to share a quick breakdown, because we're going to go mobile after this, of how the Rural Efficient Business Program works. So a lot of businesses have this idea of, how can I save money? What can I do? How can I be a bit more green and energy conscientious? So what you do is you go to our website, nmruralbiz.com. You look and identify what your needs are. Do I need support financially? Do I need an energy assessment like Beth identified? What are the steps to getting started? Then you connect to me, feliciaf.depala@state.nm.us. Contact me. I put you in touch with USDA, with Mexico State University, with NMSBA. We have partnerships with LANL, with Sandia Labs. So we connect you to whatever you need, so that we can figure out how to make your life easier. Essentially, you come up with the idea, and we take you step by step through it, so it makes your life a lot easier. So I just, again, wanted to thank you, Scott, Beth, Jalal, who's somewhere back here, right here, actually, for joining us, letting us come into your brewery. It's really cool. Once we turn the camera around, you'll get a good idea of what it looks like. But from here, we will take it to the back and do a little walkthrough.
Okay.
Cool. And Scott, I'm going to take you off the screen, so we have a full screen of the brewery.
Okay, I'm going to sign off.
Perfect. Bye. Thank you. All right.
So do you want me to stay here?
No, walk with us.
Walk with you.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
all
on
right.
live, and
Okay.
tell me if
Awesome.
get a little view here of this cool,
Of our chalkboard.
of everything. This is really neat. So we'll just hustle to the back. We need to get a GoPro, is what we've realized.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So this is just an idea of what the cool brewery looks like. Awesome. And we're going to be following Beth into the brewing area where the magic happens.
Yes.
Awesome. And back here you can see Jalal and his team working and auditing some of what they're doing, and we'll just hone in here to give an idea. Awesome. We're here to pick your brain, and you can maybe just tell us a little bit about what you got going on back here.
Sure. Do you want me to just walk you through the
Sure.
process?
Yeah.
So we have a 3-barrel brew house. I'm taking some pictures of these right now. 2 vessels. So we got a mesh lauter tun, and then we got a kettle whirlpool. Cold side, we have three 3-barrel fermenters, 2 7-barrel fermenters, and a 5-barrel bright tank. And for the most part, these things are getting changed out. Like as soon as one's empty, we fill it the next day or same day, just to keep up because it is a small system. Cider, we have one fermenter dedicated to cider only, and that's getting changed out every 2 weeks. New batches, and then we do like small one-off batches like this one when I'm like freaking out because I don't have enough. It's a real simple setup.
Awesome.
We have an on-demand water heater, which has been very handy for me. And then everything else is just from the normal.
And then this is also Energy Star, which means you guys are saving some energy here, which is good.
Time, too.
Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't have to like wait for a hot liquor tank to heat up.
Yeah.
It's just
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for inviting us back here, and we'll sign out. If you guys can give us a wave, Joelle's team. Cool. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next month. Have a good day.